What's up? Hey, I couldn't figure out where to even start with this 250 review. I'm so excited about the 250 class and this relationship between Star Yamaha and Pro Circuit. It has gotten intense.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, I stabbed a man in the heart.
I saw that. Brick killed a guy.
Anyway, guys, thank you for the subscriptions. I really appreciate it. The channel's crushing it. Keep them coming. And if you got unsubscribed, because that still happens to people, just double check, make sure you're still subscribed. And yeah, let's get into this thing.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
If you haven't checked out the podcast with Toolman Dan and Coach Rob over on Coach Rob's channel, it's Navigating Vet Racing. Vet Racing's, it's very popular. There's a lot of us out there, and they cover a lot of those topics, so check that out. Epic Garage Designs. Epic Garage Designs has stuff for your entire garage, but just get yourself some slat wall. I promise you, that slat wall and those hooks hold a lot of weight. It will clean up your garage. Thank me later. Just order up that slat wall right now. EpicGarageDesigns.com. Ride Strapped. Here it is, Memorial Day. Go ahead and get yourself some patriotic goggles from Ride Strapped, a company that I really appreciate. And yeah, check them out at ridestrapped.com. If you're shipping anything using a truck, hit up Precision Transport. Club MX has already used them. Lots of you other guys have already used them, and every single person comes back to me and says, wow, what a great company. And that's not something you normally hear from trucking companies. So if you need to ship something, hit up pretransport.com. So I got to start with Haiden Deegan. Haiden Deegan put in a phenomenal performance. This dude is everything I've been asking for. If you guys have watched me for a long time, long before Haiden Deegan, I've been saying we need somebody who's going to get up there and stir the pot and be the anti-hero and not say everything that these idiot publicists tell them to say. Haiden Deegan is that. He's swearing in interviews. He's talking trash about a former teammate and training partner in Levi. This is what the sport needs. This guy talks trash, but not only does he talk trash, he can deliver. He comes out there and fights his ass off. And he's kind of breaking a bit of a code. Typically, you're not supposed to talk about smoking people at the practice track or when someone's having issues at the practice track. Yes, we all try to get that information, and yes, we leak it whenever we can find it, you know. But the riders themselves, there's kind of a code that you don't talk about other people. Well, now that Levi has left and gone to Pro Circuit, Haiden Deegan's like, out the window. I'm telling everybody this dude faded in practice. I knew he was going to fade in the race, and it's probably not going to sit well with Levi. It might not even sit well with some of his other star teammates, but this guy doesn't care, and it brings eyeballs to this sport. So I had talked about earlier in the year during Supercross about Levi leaving, the Star Yamaha team because he didn't like the Haiden Deegan circus being around. Well, guess what? This confirms all of that. He clearly is. Hayden's kind of probably pissed that Levi left. And while Levi never actually said it, we all knew it. He said enough words that we knew he left because of Deegan and because of the program. And they want to beat him worse than they want to beat anybody. And it shows. The bad blood between Levi and Haiden Deegan, it's apparent. So Levi shows up with this leopard print hair, after coming after the Supercross where he had to be devastated. He went into the last round in a winner-take-all scenario with RJ Hampshire, and he didn't win. I can't imagine the emotional letdown. He had 2 weeks to sit on that and get back out there. Shaves his head, does the leopard print, which a lot of people are like, oh, it looks ridiculous. Yeah, who cares? That's his personality. I love letting these guys' personalities show, whether you like their personality or not. I do not want robots out there. It was very 90s of Levi to do that. And while I do think it looked ridiculous, I'm 100% behind Levi in doing that to his hair. I would never do it. I think it looks silly. But if that's his personality and that's how he wants to let himself shine and be represented, good on him. I'm tired of, in this sport, we have a lot of sponsors that say, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. These idiots don't know what they're talking about. What you need to do is be yourself. Yes, you sometimes you'll cross that line. When you push that line and you start doing stuff like leopard print hair, swearing on the podium, you will cross the line occasionally, but you've got to push that line to make this thing interesting, to let us know who you are. You are not robots. You are not just product peddlers out there. You guys are racers, and we want to know the story, your authentic story. And if there's beef between Haiden and Levi, we want to know about it. Not only do we have a Haiden versus Levi rivalry, now at the end of the day, Pro Circuit protested the victory by Haiden Deegan. The results were delayed 3 hours while they argued whether or not Haiden Deegan made time or didn't make up time. Tom Vial was penalized earlier in the day for a very, very similar infraction. And this is a vague rule, and it leaves a lot to interpretation. While they say, oh, it's all about time and this and that, it's acceleration, not acceleration. But I'm going to get into all that later on in this video. Tom Vial, while he didn't win, he came into this series, like I said, it's hard when you have this emotional high and low and high and you finish with the champ. Even if you win the championship, much like Levi losing the championship, there is an emotional dump when you get something done. You almost feel like you need a vacation. You guys know I've got the MMA channel. I've been covering a lot of that. These guys think it's absolutely nuts that they go right back into another series 2 weeks later. These guys want to go on vacation and rest and do things after their fights. They're like, wait, they go 2 weeks and they're right back into outdoor nationals after that? It's crazy, and it's asking a lot of these athletes. So for Tom to come out there in the California tracks, and the California track out there, Hangtown's pretty decent for him, but Paula is a track that rewards courage. It is scary. If you guys have been there in person, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is hard packed dirt towards the end of the day. These boulders come out of nowhere because it's built on a rock quarry, and you have to absolutely send it. I don't think that's Tom Vial's forte. Tom is a very technical rider, and he's really good in the sand. What he needs to do is he's got to get through the first 4 rounds. Then when they get to Southwick, Tom Vial can ride sand. He went 1-1 there last year. That's where he needs to really begin his championship push. If he's way behind when they get to Southwick and he doesn't go 1-1, Tom's got some issues. But until Southwick, I really wouldn't worry about him as long as he's up there getting podiums. And he actually went 3-3, but with that penalty, it moved him to a 4-3. Watch those points at the end of the year. That could be the difference between a championship and no championship. And the guy who got third in that first moto, who was kind of gifted third, was Honda rider. And I'm not talking about Joe Shimoda, who once again is off to a slow start. I'm talking about Chance Hymas. So I've been pretty critical of Chance Hymas. I hadn't really seen the flashes, and Lucas Myrtle has been telling me about Chance Hymas for a long time and telling me how great this kid is. And I have to tip my hat to Myrtle. I see what he's talking about now. He has that technique. He almost looks like a Lawrence brother. And I went back and researched some of his amateur stuff. When he had his breakout at Loretta Lynn's, it was very similar. He had that same kind of technique. This isn't brand new, but being with the Lawrence brothers is helping Chance Hymas polish that. Last year is his rookie season. What he's got to do is get through the entire season, keep putting in these good rides, consistently be there in that 2 to 5 range, and he will become a contender in this series. There are so many good riders in that 250 class, but there was one that really caught my eye, and it came out of nowhere. And while 12th place might not sound really good, Mark Phineas or Finis, I'm not sure how to say that. I like to say Phineas because it sounds like Phineas and Ferb. I'm going to call him Phineas. Mark Phineas charged up. He got 14 and 11 moto finishes for the Club MX Yamaha team, and that's good. That bike, I don't know. Everyone has complained about that Club MX 250 outdoors. Supercross, they seem to have it figured out, but that bike has been much maligned in outdoors, and for Mark Phineas to come out there and go 14-11 in that field, that's pretty badass. Let me just list some of the names that he beat. Jordan Smith, Ty Masterpool, Daxton Bennick, Nick Romano, Casey Cochran, Jet Reynolds, and he also beat his teammate, Cody Schock. So that's a good finish for Mark, and I like this kid. Even though sometimes in his interviews he looks like a serial killer, which makes me laugh, he's really onto something with Club MX, and maybe this will springboard him into a really successful career. Now to the off-track penalties. There was lots of guys that went off track. and it gets kind of crazy. You got 40 riders out there buzzing left, right. They've got little track markers that they can easily go around. It's not like the old days where we had banners where you had to break through the banners. They can just ride right around and ride back on, and they don't lose any time. To me, that's frustrating. I feel like if you make a mistake on the track, like Tom Vial did, you should have a significant time penalty. I don't know exactly how you would enforce this. It's so subjective. I mean, were they on the gas? Were they not on the gas? Are we going to replay it? Are we going to look at Lit Pro data and say, oh, okay. But my issue with the whole rule is it says you cannot gain an advantage. And a couple of years ago, I did an article for Vital MX. Yeah, believe it or not, I used to write for them. I just came to the conclusion there wasn't an easy fix. And back in the day, I used to talk to Davey Coombs, and we talked about some options and what was logistically possible and what wasn't. And I told Davey, my idea of this is it's kind of a self-reporting act. So if you get, in road racing, if you jump the start, a couple laps later, you come around, there's a pit board, and it'll have, they call it the meatball flag, and it'll have your number on it. And then at some point during that race, you get to choose whenever, you have to pull into pit lane, stop, then go. Now, what I would like to see for off-track excursions is a stop and go penalty. So if you're a rider and you go around more than 2 of those yellow track markers or some designated amount of track, then you owe a meatball, a stop and go penalty, and you'd have to create a spot near the starting line or near the mechanics area where the riders could come in, stop, then go. Now, what happens if a guy goes off the track and doesn't actually, they don't get in with the meatball flag? That's why I say it has to be self-reported, because if you meatball flag someone, they know. But if nobody saw it and they don't get the meatball flag and they don't pull off, they might get away with it. But if somebody goes back and reviews it and we find out you went off the track and didn't pull in, you get a 1-lap penalty. So that would keep guys honest. It would keep them on track, and it would actually penalize mistakes. A few years ago, Jeremy Martin went off the track going up Mount Martin. He had to stop, go across. He cut off that entire top section. He waited and jumped right back in where he was prior to the mistake. That doesn't seem fair. He made a gigantic mistake, stopped, had a rest, took a breath, and then took back off right in the same spot. What's to keep guys from cutting a whole section off, stopping, and then just jumping back in? You know, obviously it would be pretty obvious, but if you made it look like an accident, you could just take a mulligan. I don't like mulligans in racing. If you go off the track, you should have a penalty. That's a mistake. It's the same as a crash. That will keep guys from going off the track. If you know, oh crap, I rode off the track for a significant amount of time, I owe a stop and go penalty, and it will be pretty cut and dried. He went off the track. Some point in this moto, he's got to do a stop and go penalty. Now, then there comes in some strategy. It makes it exciting. Okay, he's got a 10-second lead, but he owes a stop and go. Okay, pulls off, stop, go. Does he maintain the lead? I don't know, but it leaves the racing to where when they cross the finish line, we still know exactly where they finished. Whereas if you do time penalties and stuff like that, it gets really jumbled trying to figure out, okay, that's a 5-second penalty, that's a 2-position penalty. It's really ambiguous. What I'm suggesting is something that's just a little bit easier. This might not be the best solution, but it's all I could come up with. Tell me in the comments what you guys think should be done, because I don't like mulligans in motocross. I don't like guys being able to just go off the track, and as long as they don't gain an advantage, they can come back in. I understand you have to allow people to come back in safe areas, but you made a mistake. You owe a stop and go. So last week, my big thing was Deegan versus Vial. There was a matchup, Deegan versus Vial. Now it's Deegan versus Levi, and I cannot wait to see what my guys at BetOnline put for the odds. I guarantee there'll be a matchup between Levi and Haiden, because that's a rivalry that we've got to pay attention to. Deegan's obviously going to be the favorite simply because more people bet on him, but also I think he's a little bit faster right now, and he does have more endurance. Levi is dealing with that fatigue. You guys know the fatigue that I was talking about coming into Supercross? How long can he maintain this? Is he going to drop off in the heat? Can he do it for a whole season? I don't know. Speaking of endurance and heat, my boy Mark Savage in Thailand is doing that world record in end of July, like July 31st, August 1st, right around there. If you go to Mark Sav at gmx.com, he's doing a raffle, put in $25, and he's going to fly a certain amount of people over there to watch his world record attempt. So I'm going to try and get him on this week and see how his prep's coming for the world record. And thanks, guys. I really appreciate everything, and I will catch you later.